time, I'd ask you to rise with us to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to our council meeting. City Administrator, any additions or changes to the agenda?
There's one item of clarification in 6R, which is the radar gun purchase. Do note that that purchase is for an amount of $2,500.
Okay, have the cost there. All right. Any public comments? Anybody here to address us about anything that's not on the agenda? We would entertain those comments right now. If not, we'll move forward. Number 6, consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any person, council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda, and the items will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. A, approve city council work session minutes of August 4th, 2021. B, approve city council minutes from August 4th, 2021. C, approve the payment of bills and finance report. D, approve special event permit for Walk a Mile in Your Shoes event. E, approve temporary liquor license for the Brainerd JC's special event at Camp Vanasek. F, accept utilities commission minutes from August 9th, 2021. G, approve the SEH contract amendment for right-of-way acquisition support in the not-to-exceed amount of $7,000 for the Section 6 area of A1 outlet project. H, approve the SEH quiet zone assessment contract in the not-to-exceed amount of $14,800. I, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. change order number 10 in the increased amount of $15,480 for the 2020 South Sanitary Sewer Interceptor, North Forest View Improvements, and North Forest View Stormwater Outfall Improvements project. J, approve the R.L. Larson Excavating Inc. partial pay estimate number 11 in the amount of $254,623.97 for the 2020 South Sanitary Sewer Interceptor, North Forest View Improvements, and North Forest View Storm Outfall Improvement project. K, approve a Bolton and Mink fee amendment number 3 in the not-to-exceed amount of $137,424 for the 2022 Inglewood Drive Railway Crossing and associated roadway improvements project. L, approve the Bolton and Mink proposal for engineering services in the not-to-exceed amount of $4,165 for the city storm sewer review. M, 2020 Fairview Road, Golf Course Drive, Excelsior Road and Trail Connection, and 2020 Oakwood Drive Trail Connection Improvements Project. Change order number 9. And approve the Knife River Corporation North Central pay estimate number 1 in the amount of $642,586.14 for the 2021 Mill and Overlay and Full Depth Reclamation Improvements Project. We'll approve the WITS of the agreement for professional engineering services for the water supply wells number 2 and number 3 rehabilitation in the not-to-exceed amount of $10,750. P, appoint Brenda Brooks to the Assistant Finance Director position at grade 12, step 4 of the non-unit employee schedule, and authorize staff to commence the process to fill the finance specialist position. Q, appoint Aaron Klein to the Streets and Utilities internship position. R, approve purchase of the new LIDAR unit with alcohol forfeiture funds with the addition of the cost. Yes, accept planning commission meeting minutes from August 10th, 2021. T, approve resolution 2021-067, approving a variance to allow for the construction of a deck to encroach into the setback to Birch Lake for property located at 6318 Highland Scenic Road.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Tabit.
Second.
Second by Lisco. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 8, other business. 8A, approve ordinance 2021-068, 2021-014, resolution 2021-069, approving of a zoning ordinance text amendment.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request for a zoning ordinance text amendment to allow the allowed use of child care without urban utilities in the public benefit zoning district. There's also an interim use permit request to allow child care for the Brainerd Family YMCA at Camp Manasek located at 14307 Oakwood Drive. So the request is specifically, the zoning amendment is a citywide change to the public benefit district, and the interim use permit is specific to the subject property. Specifically, the YMCA facility has been operating for the last two summers, and also operated last year during the fall, winter, and spring months. And if the council will remember, the city authorized that use at the time through a COVID-19 approval process to allow that use for last year. To continue the use moving forward, the interim use permit is requested to allow a use approval for child care in those non-summer months, with the finding that really the year-round daycare facility does require a use approval, and that's what we're reviewing here this evening. This is the subject property outlined in blue. Of course, the council is all familiar with the Whipple Beach area, the Camp Manasek area, and where the Brainerd Family YMCA has been located here. Specifically with the zoning ordinance amendment, pretty straightforward, adding the use of child care without urban utilities as an interim use permit in the public benefit zoning district. Specifically, the request for the interim use permit on this property allows for child care use. Specifically with this interim use permit approval, the request is for a 5-year use approval. The interim use permit does identify the nonconformities that are occurring on the site, potential nonconformities, and those are all outlined in the staff report. I think there are 13 of them that have been identified. Obviously, the spirit and intent of the interim use permit is for, with an interim use permit, it's a temporary approval that would allow the site to come into conformance over time. So the interim use permit would need to be reevaluated in 5 years. The way it's set up is that the city council would need to grant approval to extend that interim use permit beyond 5 years. And at that time, there can be a reevaluation of what nonconformities have been addressed and which ones haven't, and where we're at that time. When the Planning Commission looked at the interim use permit and the zoning ordinance amendment, they did recommend approval of the application. They did add one condition, which I just want to point out. Specifically, it talks about during the term of the interim use permit, the city of Baxter does maintain the right to reevaluate whether the original intent and function of the use is being maintained. If it's determined that the use has materially changed, then city staff can recommend revocation of the IUP to the city council. The commission, I think, wanted to have some ability to reevaluate if the use substantively changes. You know, if they quadruple numbers out there and we have, you know, parking or traffic problems or something like that, there's an ability for a reevaluation. So with that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the zoning ordinance amendment and the interim use permit. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Excuse me, council, any questions of Mr. Cooley?
I have a couple just curiosities as much
Sure.
as anything. Regarding like talking about childcare versus camp, is that definition kind of just based on it was always a summer camp, or how does that play out?
Yeah, that's the way staff looked at it. You know, Camp Manasek has operated a children's camp there for many years. And when you're dealing with legally non-conforming uses, which is really what's occurring there, not because there's really issues with the use. It's the fact that there's things like there's no utilities present for municipal utilities, things like that. But when it comes to the legally non-conforming ordinance, it's really defining the use as it exists today, and it doesn't really relate to who's operating the use that can run with the land. So the fact that Camp Vanasek is partnering with the YMCA, and the YMCA is operating a child care summer camp, staff viewed that as not a change in use. But when there is a proposal to operate a year-round child care facility, staff did view that as a change in use, requiring their approvals here tonight.
Yes, I've got a couple more if no one else
Sure.
has anything. In there, I don't think you mentioned it verbally, but I thought I saw a need for like a plat change because of a line going through a building. Just kind of curiosity on that, if the entirety of that piece of land is now owned by the city, is that relevant, or how is that relevant? I guess you wouldn't have said it if it wasn't relevant.
Sure. I think what we attempted to do is evaluate all the potential nonconformities that we'd like to look at cleaning up over time. And that's really what the spirit and intent of an interviews permit is. And really the specific lot line that we're looking at was, I think, this one right here that goes north and south. And so, yes, having a lot line go through a building is not an ideal situation from even a building code perspective. And so there's lots of different remedies that could be looked at for that. To clean that up, so to speak, you could look at consolidating the lots in the future, rearranging the lot lines. There's other potential mechanisms to look at as well. But obviously it's existing the way it is. It's certainly operated that way for many years as a summer camp. It's because the interim use is being requested, it was an opportunity for staff to identify all potential items that could be cleaned up on the site from a zoning perspective.
And then finally, the urban utilities question, I was just curious about, I don't know exactly where they stop. Is that something that it's just like, just hook up, or are we talking about when it comes through, or you're gonna run the line yourselves, or what's the?
Good question. I mean, there's a number of different scenarios that could play out. I mean, we currently have utilities just to the north of the property. You know, in terms of the engineering, I'd lean on Mr. Walter to speak up to any technical questions as to what's needed to bring utilities south. But in Baxter's zoning ordinance, it clearly establishes that to do new use approvals, new development, from a commercial perspective, such as a daycare facility, uses need urban utilities to expand uses and to expand buildings. And so that's needed. How that gets done, whether it's a private application from the YMCA or other, or if it's a partnership with the city or whatever, is all undefined at this point. But we just know that to make it compliant with zoning ordinance, there needs to be utilities brought to the site. So we've identified that as one of the items tonight.
I'll leave you alone.
Okay, no worries.
Good questions. Anybody else? Applicant have any questions or comments?
Oh, excuse me.
You don't have to if you don't.
No, I would just like to express my gratitude. It's at the Y we say we nurture.
Better come here, get on record here, I guess.
I'm Shane Riffle. I'm the CEO of the Brighter Family YMCA. I wanted to say thank you for this process. It's been enlightening. When I was here in front of the Planning and Zoning Committee, I learned a lot, and it's a learning process. But at the Y we say we nurture the potential of every child. And, you know, with this property, you know, it feels like we're kind of doing the same out there, nurturing the potential of Camp Vanasek and what it might be, so that we can serve more kids throughout the community. So I would just like to go on record and say how excited I am about working with the city of Baxter, hopefully in the future. I know there's a lot coming down the road, but yeah, just thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll look for a motion then to approve 8A.
I'll make a motion to approve 8A.
Second.
Motion by Lucille, second by Tabit. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving right along, council comments. Connie?
Just to bring forth a couple of events coming down the pipe here for Baxter. The Kiwanis Triathlon is coming up, and that's always a fun event. Saturday the 28th is the Kids Triathlon, if I remember. They're always looking for volunteers as well, and then the adults will compete on Sunday the 29th. And then also another neighborhood night out for South Baxter, excuse me, Thursday at Prince of Peace, and it really caught my eye, not only because I love those events, but also you can make donations to the Crow County Collaborative Service Organization, and they support kids who are at risk.
Great, thank you. Zach?
I noticed on the way here tonight that I was behind a drag race car coming up for the Nationals this week at BIR. Excited to see all the people coming to visit. That's a great event to have all kinds of visitors into town for that. And I'll just note, tying to our work session discussion, that the roadway assessment kind of conversation is similar to what I brought up last time I had comments. Is just, I think it's valuable for us to talk through as a council kind of the philosophical point of view on all those topics, zoning and lot sizes and things that feed into why assessments might be higher or lower. So looking forward to talking about those things.
Good. Mark?
No comments.
Okay. I just, to your comment there, I noticed that the rigs were already pulling into the Walmart campground on Monday night there. So they were coming into town, some pretty big rigs. Just a couple of other things. The Linda organization sponsored a car show this past weekend, and it was quite a great event, kind of appreciation of open house kind of a deal. A lot of cars. They're expecting to make that an annual thing. We're looking to double it by next year, and something to look forward to. And then I just want to offer our condolences to the chief, the loss of the passing of his mother this past weekend. So those are tough, no matter how old our people and loved ones are. It's a tough time. So I'm thinking about you. City Administrator.
Just one item here. Each of you should have received an email yesterday outlining the 2020 census population for the city of Baxter. We are officially at 8,612 people, or persons, for our population. U.S. Census Bureau released it on Thursday so that states can start doing redistricting. That has to be done in a timely fashion to allow for adjustments that need to be made for the 2022 general election. So it was limited data. It was just basically a number of people and then broken down by race with no other information. And so there will be more data that will be released by the Census Bureau over the next several months. So we'll keep you posted.
Okay, thank you. Are you going to double as a city attorney tonight, or? There's nothing to do. All right, I think we're done. For a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Cross.
Second.
By Tabit, all in favor?
Aye.